hope we all had a very enjoyable Christmas holidays. It's been a short week since our last press briefing on Wednesday. Nevertheless, I think it is very important that every bit of information that we have available, that we pass this on to the public in general. And therefore, I would give some information as to some developments that took place after our last press briefing. First, I'm very, very pleased to say that the Christmas holidays passed as far as safety and security are concerned, pretty safe, where there were no major mishaps, no incidents other than the ordinary. Unfortunately, there was a fire in which a family lost their home. My sentiments goes out to that family. While we had different activities and different ships in town, everything went smooth. There were no incidents reported by the police, and I'm glad for that, because it shows that we, as far as law and order is concerned, we are back up and running, at least on the right track to do so. Part of the recovery, one of the important things is to get our economy back up. And it was a good feeling to have the ships back in town. On Christmas Day, we had 2 ships in. The Marella Celebration that had 1,300 passengers and 500 crew. And also the Independence of the Seas with 4,300 passengers and 1,300 crew. For Boxing Day, we had 3 ships in. The Grandeur of the Seas with 2,400 passengers and 760 crew. Jewel of the Seas with 2,500 passengers and 840 crew. Azamara Quest with 680 passengers and 400 crew. And I mentioned this specifically because I know it has been a big concern for everyone, and also the business community and the merchants, that we are safe, and when welcoming our visitors back, that we should be able to provide them with the necessary security. And this Christmas season or holidays, the 2 days that passed, and the long weekend, we proved that we did just that. Today, we are expecting also the ship Freedom of the Seas with 3,600 passengers and 1,300 crew. And on Oliers, December the 31st, the Adventure of the Seas with 3,000 passengers and 1,100 crew. Also, part of reviving the economy is we have the situation with the budget, and as was noted and reported in the papers today, with the advice of the CFT. Our Minister of Finance, the Honorable Minister Gibson, is presently in Parliament, giving an update on the financial situation. And it is clear that we will be needing financial injection to be able to survive the budget cycle. In Parliament, we have submitted the amendment to the budget. The first amendment was submitted to Parliament, but was never handled by Parliament, or not as yet handled by Parliament. And in order to have the situation corrected to reflect the real financial situation, new amendment has been submitted, and that is what is going to be discussed in Parliament. In good faith that Parliament would realize the seriousness of this matter and would pass the proposed amendment. The situation with the budget, as will be explained by Minister Gibson, is where for 2017 we see a tremendous shortfall, close to some 153 million guilders. And budgetary assistance was committed by the Netherlands. It is still not yet known if this budgetary assistance would be a grant or a loan, but we expect to get that budgetary assistance. Things does not look much better for 2018, as there too we expect a large shortfall with our budget. I do agree with the CFT that we should not stop doing what we are doing and should continue the process of getting budget discipline and making sure that we have our budgets, etc., submitted in time. I think it would be totally unrealistic, however, to expect that we will be able to submit a balanced budget after the consequences of the hurricane. If we look at 2017, just for an example, we would have on the side of the costs, where we would have 510 million, and as income, we only projected 360 million because of the effects of the hurricane. So believing that we will be able to submit a balanced budget is not really realistic. The advice of the CFT for our instruction to be issued is basically saying it's a bureaucratic. The law that governs the CFT says that if this and this doesn't happen, then that should take place. I hope, and that is the advice. I do not see this as a hostile act towards St. Martin. I see it as a following to the T the procedures, the bureaucratic process. I hope to contact the State Secretary on this matter. I think it can be resolved without a budget or instruction being issued. What definitely needs to be done is that we continue the budget cycle and making sure that we take this very seriously, because it is not a rosy situation that we have right now. While scanning through the newspaper this morning, I saw something that normally I do not react on a lot of stuff that I see in the newspapers, but let me see if I can find it. But in the editorial of the Herald today, that was the topic: the budget and the advice of the CFT. And there was a part where, and let me read it. In this sense, it's a bit puzzling that the Council of Ministers called its weekly Wednesday press briefing for 10 a.m., the same time the Central Committee meeting is scheduled. And I'm almost fell off my chair. I'm amazed. Since January, since December, when this government took office, the press briefings have been every Wednesday at 10 a.m., from 10 to 11. The impression when you read that would be that Parliament called a meeting at 10 o'clock and the government ran and decided to call a press briefing for the same time. And this is disappointing because, we tend to point out to government about integrity breaches, et cetera, but also saying things for which we know better and creating the wrong impression out there are also, in my opinion, integrity breaches. And I know the Herald to be an honorable newspaper, but this is very disappointing, and it requires me to clarify the matter. The press briefing of the government has always been, from day one, on Wednesdays from 10 to 11. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, there's an agreement with Parliament that Parliament would, as much as possible, avoid calling their meetings on Wednesday 10 to avoid as far as the DECOM transmissions are concerned. Nevertheless, the press briefing is not scheduled for one minister. It's a council of ministers. So I think we can multitask. I think while Minister Gibson is in Parliament taking care of his business, which he has been doing very good the past year, I think we can continue here with our press briefing. And so should the media also be able to cover more than one happening at the same time. St. Martin, one that would be carried out by the St. Martin Development Fund. And that is a project that has to do with elderly home repair. It's an elderly home repair project, and some 2.5 million guilders would go towards that project. It is expected that project to run between January and, if I'm not mistaken, June. But that is one of the projects that would be financed as an early recovery project. Another project is done by the White and Yellow Cross. And the White and Yellow Cross is a combination of projects that would take place. As we know, the White and Yellow Cross has the community nursing, the district nursing, in which they are very well aware of where especially their clients live in the districts, have identified them, they did research and know exactly whose homes are damaged and to what extent. And part of the project that would cover some 45 homes would be also assisting with the repairs for those homes. Another interesting part of the project that has been identified by the White and Yellow Cross is where they would be looking at unemployed people in the hospitality business and retraining them to become assistants, care assistants of level 1. This is a very, very interesting and good project. For the White and Yellow Cross, an amount of €980,000 from the Early Recovery Fund would be made available. The other one would be the UNDP. And the UNDP also would have targeted about 500 households for repair activities. And with that, for that, an amount of €2,242,000 would be made available. That project is also expected to run between January and June. So these projects, once the details and they have their project dossiers, etc., and it has been agreed the financing, all should be able to kick off, begin January, and this would help relieve the burden a good bit of especially those folks and the most vulnerable, which would be the kids and the senior citizens who need that assistance. I believe that I have covered most of the important aspects that I wanted to touch on. We would be moving over and going into the year-end activities and celebrations, and you know, it is heartwarming to see that despite the terrible drama that we went through, and I forgot to mention, when was it, yesterday or day before yesterday, we also were shook up a bit by a 5.2 or 5.5 earthquake, and that one wasn't light. It really rocked. So it's a reminder that we are small beings in this big world, and our fate is not always in our hands. And bearing that in mind, going over to the new year, I hope we can keep it as safe as we did for the Christmas holidays. And the same reminder I had for the Christmas holidays is, there are many people alone. There are many people going through a rough time. Reach out to someone and help them move over in the New Year's with some hope that things will be better and will get better, because it will. So I want to thank you and have a safe Old Year's going over, and I wish you all the best for 2018. Thank you.
Thank you to Minister Boseman for his opening remarks. We will now move over to the question and answer segment. Mr. Lyndon Brown of PCN News, you have the floor.
Good morning, Minister Boseman. We're going to start with the 7 million that's what is due to St. Martin. Are there any requirement? You emphasized that most of this money will go to the White and Yellow Cross and the elderly home. Do these homes that have been destroyed, is there any special arrangement? Do they have to fulfill any requirement?
Yes, they have to fulfill requirements as far as properly managing and accounting for the funds that they receive. There will be periodic reporting period. I have one here, for instance, from the UNDP. There will be 4 different reporting period, one on the 1st of February, 1st of April, 1st of July, and on the 1st of October. And during those reporting period, they have to give account to the activities that were carried out, the results that they achieve, the continuation and the planning, and if there are any bottlenecks, etc. So it's a constant, they have to be accountable. Naturally, no one is going to take up their money and just give it to you like that. So you have to be able, if you get the money to use for a particular goal, you have to be able to show that you are using it effectively for that goal. So those are the conditions. I don't know of any other conditions.
Mr. Brown, your next question.
And also, there are people who may not have the right document for their property, but the hurricane have destroyed their houses. Is there any special arrangement that they have to have some arrangement with VROMI so that that fund is going to go to help them rebuild their houses?
These NGOs have put their project dossiers together themselves with the organization that the government of St. Martin is busy setting up. We would be gathering information from those organizations that assist. If you notice, there were different organizations that, for instance, would be doing like house repair, etc. We would want to have an idea of where, whose homes were repaired, so that we more for the purpose that we don't go over and do the same thing twice. Although it's very difficult if you repair a roof once to repair it a second time. But as far as those details are concerned as to the exact criteria, I haven't gone through all of the project dossiers to see exactly what those particular conditions are. But I would assume that they would have to comply with whatever the building code insists or exists from them.
Your final question, Mr. Brown.
Okay, Minister Boseman, we have passed hurricane and we just got an earthquake a couple of days ago. How do you see St. Martin progressing?
Everyone has said that St. Martin and the people of St. Martin, we are very resilient. We bounce back and we bounce back fast. And I think one of the things that we have to do, we have to acknowledge the effects of climate change, and that moving forward, we are vulnerable where that is concerned. And we have to pay more attention to how we build, how we prepare, not just concrete buildings, but with everything that we do, that the effects of climate change would affect us. St. Martin is a thriving place. The people of St. Martin cannot be kept down, will not allow themselves to be kept down. So I only see a bright future ahead once we act responsible and do not believe that some of the things that we see on TV will never happen to us. The Irma situation was a wake-up call. Although it was some 22 years ago that we had Lois, and we have a very young population. So a lot of our population did not experience Lois, be it that they were not born at the time, or they were very small to remember it, or they were not living on St. Martin at that time. So this reality was a big shock for a lot of people, and even those who experienced Lois experienced something that they never thought that they would have again. So I think that realization that we are vulnerable for those things, and we have to keep in mind with everything that we do moving forward, that we have to take that into account, and then we'll be okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Prime Minister. We have come to the end of today's Council of Ministers press briefing. If our audience has missed any of today's broadcast, they can rewatch on cable TV channel 115 tonight at 7 p.m. and tomorrow, Thursday at 6 p.m. They can listen on St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM throughout the week. And they can also rewatch the videos on the official websites of the government of St. Martin at stmartingov.org. And they can also view our YouTube channel and Facebook page. On behalf of the Department of Communication, my name is Giselle York. Thank you for joining us. Happy holidays, and we will see you next time.